I play and work mainly in collage, and specifically 3D animated collage. And it's a really drawn out, intense affair where I spend a lot of time sitting in my ass in a darkened room. So I don't really get out very much to talk about the work. So a big question I asked myself when Steve invited me was, what am I going to talk about, and where do I start? And I thought I would start with a title, and I came up with a nice title. I thought it was a good title, and then I realized I don't really know what the title means. So I tried another title, and I kind of liked that for a while, and I don't really know what that one means either. And you know the punchline here. So I tried to be a little bit more specific. And I don't know. So did come up with a title. How and what the hell is this all about? And it's even got a subtitle. And I guess the thing is, I can kind of speak about the how of it more than the why of it, because I in this world of creating these collage films, I'm really down deep in a rabbit hole. So it would take me a lot of counseling to get out of that rabbit hole. So what I'm going to try and share with you some of my impressions and ideas about 3D animated collage. One thing is, I don't want to over-rationalize the process that I go through. For me, it's a very organic, intuitive process. So one thing that's to say is that there's an interesting tension between significance and insignificance, and sense and nonsense. I'm quite happy to attempt, it's difficult as you probably know, to hold that tension between those dichotomies. So why collage? For me, collage just makes sense. If you think about engaging the world, it seems like collage as a metaphor is a really appropriate way of understanding things. I should just say, my understanding of collage is quite loose. I think it's the juxtaposition of unlike things. And it's related to montage, which is a film, in this instance I'm going to talk about, is a film editing technique, where it's really the juxtaposition of like things, so similar media. Yeah, collage makes sense if you think about one's experience through the world, going through a city, watching TV. There's a lot of information coming at us all the time, and we pick up on different parts. We can concentrate on some parts and lose concentration on others. And then, of course, we all have our dream aspects and our things that are going on consciously. And sometimes those things come through what you're actually seeing. So I think it's very interesting in that way. Another thing I should say, I don't really know what I'm doing. And of course, you know, that I do to a certain extent. But what I mean, I want to remain, I want to keep a not knowing mind when I'm working. And as much as I can, I want to remain willfully naive, as I say. And of course, the purpose there is to remain open to possibilities and allow the material to kind of speak to me. Of course, collage, I'm working mostly with found objects, found elements. Typical things might be images, might be a sound, might be bits of wood, glass, fragments of jewelry, it could be almost anything. And in my instance, I also include 3D computer-generated elements, which I've been collecting over the years. And like this character here, it's made up of a bunch of different parts of elements that I've collected, found computer-generated elements. And then another thing I just want to point out is I think we all carry around this kind of psychic sack of woe. And I think that's one of the kind of main things that I'm trying to depict in my films is this kind of psychic architecture that we are surrounded by all the time. And for some of us, this sack of woe is breeding and multiplying and doing all sorts of things, sometimes not just sitting on one shoulder, sometimes it's sitting on both shoulders. And the great thing about this sack that we carry around is it's great narrative material. There's lots of goods in there. Sound. I'm not going to speak much about sound, but sound is really important in the images that I'm making. For example, the films themselves, almost in terms of the aesthetic, in terms of the way I put them together, were inspired by a piece of music about 14 or 15 years ago by Oliver Schroer. And so sound became really, really important. And of course, it's important for narrative continuity. You can use it as to bridge unlike sounds. And of course, you can also change up to a kind of juxtaposition of sound and image in a surprising way. Yeah, I've been coined this term nostalgia for the future. What I think of that, for me, what that means is kind of refers to this paradoxical position of feeling homesick for things that have yet to happen. I think there's a strange kind of simultaneity that's going on in 21st century, and this for me is a phrase, I don't really understand it again, but it's a phrase that's evocative for me and kind of helps me as a thread through some of the work I'm dealing with. So there's a number of ways that I'm just going to go through and just sort of state some thoughts, ideas about collage and some of the things that I kind of look at. We're choosing elements to work with and how to go about it. Interesting things about collage elements like this page from a book or the nail is they came from somewhere. So they have a kind of legacy. They have a spatial, temporal condition that they've come from. And merely by taking them out of that condition and putting them into another condition, there's possibilities there. And of course, they have formal properties. You know, that nail there, I might see that as a sculpture. I might see that as a flower. I might see that as a letter form. So they have formal properties. You have a personal connection. Sometimes you're just attracted to the color. You're just attracted to, it reminds you of something. So another reason to find your way in there. Of course, there's all sorts of narrative associations that come up. Old Joe used that nail to drive a board into his cabin before he walked away to see it no more. And then I'm working with three-dimensional animation. So there's a spatial and a temporal aspect. So those are both interesting in and of themselves. So what I mean by that is spatially, we can take that nail and we can make it the size of a building. We can take large things around us and have it playing in a much smaller context. So it's a kind of scaleless world. And then, of course, time is another interesting element. So I want to give you an idea how this might all come together. One other thing. Yeah, I love what I'm doing. And that really helps. You're there in the dark and you're working all night and it's not working. You got to have love to come back to that, because otherwise you can get very daunted by the prospect of moving forward. I want to show you some clips from a couple of films. These films in some ways are the same film or two aspects of the same film. The premise of them is the same. Essentially, it's a character interacting with a memory box. One of the films, Blind Man's Eye, is about a blind man, and he is what I would call a seeker. So he's actively going into the stuff of this memory box. The other character in the film, The Trembling Veil of Bones, is this character here. His name is Bones, and he's a reluctant character. He's reluctant to go through this memory box. And the premise of the film is at this particular moment, he's received the box and he's gone out, ostensibly outside of his studio. So I'm just going to show you the shot, and then I want to show you how it comes together. very, very short clip. So here's the method, the essential method that I've been using in making this work. By the way, yeah, the notion here is I'm animating this character, right? So he is a human character in prosthetic makeup and in a kind of Jean-Paul Gaultier style costume. And the concept is I'm puppeteering him, I'm animating him. So he becomes, in my mind, once we film him, a found element that I've somewhat manipulated, but of course I'm not totally in control of him. So I want to show you, yeah, so this is the green screen studio where we filmed the character. And then these are tracking a virtual camera to duplicate the physical camera. And you'll see that they largely sync up. This is the regular speed. The previous shots were double speed. And so here you can see I'm beginning to lay in some of the computer-generated material. All I'm playing with at this point in terms of the 3D objects is playing with the scale of things and trying to make it kind of evoke a streetscape, even though he actually is still inside the studio. So here you can see the beauty pass, as it's called. So this is combined with the filmed plate, and then in addition to that, we also can layer in two-dimensional animation. So I just want to, I think the next one is going to show this shot in the context of the film. And he's about to step out of his studio. He's received the package. He's going out into his studio, and his contents of the package have spilled out. This next one is from the other film, Blind Man's Eye. In this film, Crow is the kind of emissary for blind man as he does these kind of shamanic visions into this memory box. In this instance, Crow is flying along a city. Maybe I'll say something about this. I took a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and I cut it down the middle with a kind of river, and then I put collage on the surface of the plywood, and then I made all these collaged buildings out of different bits and pieces, and I kind of arranged them as a kind of Chicago landscape, cityscape. And then we rejigged what's called a rostrum camera, which is used for doing, in the old days before CG stuff, where you could move a camera across a book or something. So the camera can go up and down, it can go backwards and forwards, and then the table can spin around. So in this instance, we've managed to simulate we took the camera, we put a snorkel lens at the end of the camera that has a 90-degree turn on it. So we could actually move this camera through this city that we created, and this is one of the results. So again, I'll show you some of the elements going into making that. You can see cigar boxes, you can see bottles. And then I'm going to show you some of the computer-generated layers that lay on top of that. So again, we've done reverse engineer and track the camera move. So the computer-generated stuff will match seamlessly with the camera-recorded content. And then this is the shot in the context of the film. I'm going to show you a few more. This is Crow diving down below the bridges, and he's going to fly down into the river of text. And again, I'll show you one of the elements anyway that made up that. You can see the various collage boxes that I made, and I've arranged them as a kind of urban landscape. And again, see the shot in context. We're following Bumblebee across the river now. And he runs into Crow. And these are the computer-generated elements that we're marrying with the camera-recorded plate. I'll show it in it in context.